somebody asked me this the other day, what are you most proud of? And 3 individuals came to mind that started basically entry level and are now running organizations, some for me, some outside of my organizations. But I'm like, that's the most impact that I've had. Forget any of the other stuff. And so for a leader to go from, here I did 10 TPS reports tonight to, man, I elevated somebody into a job. They didn't even know they were capable of doing it, and they're crushing it. That's really cool.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Welcome back to Clicks and Bricks. Today we're talking to serial entrepreneur Benj, and he is also the co-founder of the company he's currently running called System and Soul. How are you doing today, Benj?
Wonderful. Even better to sit here with you and chat and get a few laughs in before we hit record.
Absolutely. So we did get to talk a little bit before we jumped in here. And today you're running System and Soul, and we want to really get into what that's about. But this is not your first rodeo. You've got about 10 other startups that you've been part of. Can you tell us a little bit about your beginning stages of getting into entrepreneurship? What led you to that? And where did you come from? Right? Yeah.
Well, I came from like the cornfields of Ohio, and I didn't know entrepreneurship was even a thing. And so I luckily moved via my wife's job down to Atlanta. I was at that point kind of a self-trained graphic designer, and quickly with this agency went from graphic designer to art director to creative director, very young, early 20s, leading senior leadership teams through brand conversations, so found myself in the thick of it. And then also got promoted to an I quit, you're fired conversation with my boss, and found myself, without a job. And that was the perfect opportunity because I had wanted to see if I could just make the same income freelancing. This was way before the gig economy, right? But I wanted to freelance. And that was my biggest ambition. I'm like, man, if I could make what I was making at that agency without having to have, air quotes, a job, that would be a pretty cool life. And that worked. It worked so well that I had to bring other people on to do it. And by 2009, the company grew 300%, this little agency that I had. Right at the end of that, I made some decisions that probably weren't the smartest in retrospect and found myself way over my skis. So now I'm like catastrophic level deal with this business. I don't know what to do. I had just gotten a business coach, which was providential. And, we figured out, you have 3 options. You can go get a job like a normal human. You can take this back down to a small, just fun to run little family agency with your friends, or you could learn what it looks like and what it takes to run a business. And I decided to go all in on that third one. And Ken, it was like I found my calling. I loved the mixture of both the art and science of business building, and how you could, you needed both. It is an art and a science to running and building businesses. And so that led not only to turning around that agency, but then to spin off and create, as you said, several other companies along the way after that. Using those same methodologies, that's where I am today. System and Soul, the art and science of business building, right? The System and Soul is our mission's to transform 25,000 companies by the end of this decade, just using a simple operating framework for how you can kind of take the lessons that other people have learned the hard way and put them into your business. The expression, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. We just want to help accelerate that, but do that in a way that matters, like bring the soul element into the business that gives people in the business a story to be part of, a story that they want to tell their friends, they want to invite their friends into, both employees, clients, prospects, all of that. We want to build companies that matter.
Wonderful. So you had a phrase in that I really want to dig into, because I have both. I have like a real company that I operate during the day. That's my day job. And I have a fun to run family business. And I would love to hear your take on, what are some of the key differences between that? What are the fundamental differences from a fun to run, $250,000 a year kind of family business to what would be what some people would call a real business? And I don't want to take anything away from that fun to run business, but that's not a monthly P&L statement meeting.
Right. And there's probably something in between that's a lifestyle business, right? If there's the hobby business, the lifestyle business, and then I hate to use this word, I just don't have a better one, but like building a real business.
Right. Because they're all real businesses. We don't want to take anything away from that mom and pop shop. I love it. It's what I'm most passionate about, actually.
Yeah, I wish I had a better word right now for that third category. But too many people, our current society almost looks down on the lifestyle business. Like, you should do more. You should whatever. There's a beautiful, beautiful place for a lifestyle business. In fact, I have several of those, and my lifestyle businesses that I've built but no longer operate are what have given me the freedom, flexibility, and finances to go do some of these other ventures. So one of the things that I think is most important for founders, for entrepreneurs, is to answer the question, what do you want out of this thing? And it's silly, but a lot of people can't answer that question. But when you can answer that, then you know that hobby business, you're getting exactly what you want out of it. You lit up when you talked about that. Like, it's fun for you. It produces energy. Maybe it produces some cash. Maybe it brings some friends together. Those are all wonderful, wonderful things. But if you want to build, if what you want out of that is a 10x multiplier exit, that's probably not the right business or not the right thing. Right. So I think it all comes down to what do you want out of it? And, if it's a bunch of guys that are getting together to, do whatever in the garage and there's other benefits to it, there's, we're talking about two very, very different things.
Yes. And I would say it can be multiple things to the family, right? My fun to run business is fun to run for me, and it's my wife's lifestyle business. Right. She's there Monday through Friday. So
great point.
It works really, really well for us. Right. And I get to do my kind of corporate B2B business during the day. And it works really well for us. Right. And some people look at us like you're crazy for doing what you're doing. But I would die if I did anything different, I think. So wonderful. So you've got 10 businesses under your belt. Right. You come from the cornfields in Idaho?
Ohio. Yeah.
Okay.
Corn, not
Idaho
potatoes.
Is potatoes, yes.
There you go. Yeah.
So, and then you venture out to Atlanta and you start your first business, graphic design. So you're doing that for people. Catapult that. Lots of rungs, and now you're in to systems and spirit. Is that correct?
System and soul. Yeah. System and soul. System and soul is just an operating framework that we have. So there's two parts of that. There's me. Training, certifying, credentialing, serving a group of coaches around the country that go in and work with entrepreneurs. And then there's my own practice where I get to do that with companies as well. And I still love getting to sit around the table with a group of senior leaders in an organization. And for me, it's about helping them find clarity and control. Clarity and control over and over and over. And we have some simple tools to point back to help us do that. But that we're really focused on those companies that are somewhere around 25 to 75 employees. Employees aren't always a great mark, but we're looking for those stage 2 companies because we want to help transition them from a founder-led organization to a senior leadership team-led organization, and helping them make that transformation, that transition, that journey. That's where we can create the most valuable impact for them.
Okay. I know my personal hurdles there are getting out of the trenches and into leadership roles, right? What are some of the other things that you see? It's a drastically different business going from 10 people to 25. Like that, that's a huge difference for the operating partner. Yeah.
And once you get to that 25, it's probably not too different up to the 75, because when we're getting to that place, what it represents is you no longer can control everything as the guy. You can no longer be the man and do everything.
Right.
You need a business that's going to grow beyond your own personal capacity. So that means there's a people component to it. Like, we've got to have the right people. We've got to give them extreme clarity. One of the simplest things that we teach, Ken, is when you manage other people, to think about helping them drive their car. And CAR is an acronym for create clarity. They need perfect clarity on what they're responsible for, what resources they have, how you're going to measure their success. If we can give them clarity, then we can give them the autonomy. Like, leave them alone. You hired them to do a thing. Don't get in their way. Let them go do their thing, autonomy. And then the R is results. If we created clarity in the beginning, we should be able to have a conversation at the end about results, right? And so if we have complete clarity and autonomy and have a conversation with results, then we've empowered that person to do what we hired them to do. And so there's a little bit of a trust element there. There's a little bit of a letting go element there. But one of the things we've stumbled into, I'm going to put you on the spot, Ken. Why do you think most people, most managers hesitate or fail to hold their people accountable?
They're afraid they're going to leave.
Actually, what we've found, that makes sense. And I think that's true. What we've found is that people actually have guilt because they haven't created enough clarity to hold them accountable to the results. So they actually internalize it. It's a me issue as much of it as is you issue to holding you accountable. And so using this mental model of CAR, clarity, autonomy, results, then if we're not able to hold them accountable on the results, we need to look at ourselves as the leader, the manager, and say, did I do everything I need to do to create clarity to be able to have a real conversation about the results, right? So I just went down a rabbit hole here, but when people are so much of the business. Yeah.
I know for me, for years, I think any good manager, leader, whatever you want to call them, does a lot of self-work. And for years, I had that problem. I wouldn't create a whole lot of clarity, and I'd be mad at people for not giving a good result, right? And then it took a time. Okay, I didn't get the result that I wanted. Why didn't we get the result that we wanted, right? And then go back, reverse engineer that. As a tech guy, I'm pretty good at reverse engineering stuff. So it took me a while to realize that I had to reverse engineer human emotions, especially my own, right? Yeah. And how I was dealing with other people. But it's huge. Yeah. There's 1,000 ways you can finish a project. And if you just say, hey, finish the project, you really can't be mad at them on how they finished it if you didn't give them a clear direction.
Yeah. And I love that you use the word human emotion. We talk about often that how much of managing a business is managing human energy, right? I don't have a number. I wish I had a stat for it, but so much of the business is just around how we manufacture, sustain, and push this human energy in the right direction, in the same direction toward this common goal or vision that we can all articulate and align and get excited about.
Right. We might go off on a tangent here because we could probably talk about this particular topic for days on end. Do you think that has changed drastically over the last 20 years?
It absolutely has. I think 20 years ago, there was a societal message that said, shut up and be thankful you get paid to do work today. Like we gave you a job, you should be thankful and grateful.
Right.
Now what we're seeing is, and part of this is how we've evolved. Part of this is generational. What we're seeing in this latest generation that's about to just absolutely flood the workforce is what matters most to them is that they're part of a company that is making social or ecological change. Like they're involved in something that is good, that is bigger than this company. And they can, the easy examples are like the Tom's 2 for 1, like, but that's like an extreme. Like,
right.
They just want to know that their work that they come and they're a part of has a social impact of some kind. And so aligning to that is to them more important than the actual work they do, whether they work from home or the off, all these things that we think are super important, they're actually falling down the list. So 20 years ago, shut up and be thankful you have a job. And today we're seeing people, we've got to understand our people's motives, their interests, how they work best. And we've got to be a little bit of flexible.
Yeah, I know. It was about 8 years ago. I was working on a new build out of this building, and we were buying chairs. And I was with one of my predecessors, a mentor of mine. And I remember we were picking out chairs, and it was a pretty big chair budget for this 1 million square foot building that was being.
They're stupid expensive.
Yeah, and I recall, my mentor, and he's about 15 years older than me, and I'm almost 50. So, being really distraught about the energy that we were putting into the chairs. It's like, in my day, you just sat on whatever wooden piece of furniture they gave you, or you sat in the hallway and you sat wherever you were told to sit. And today we're, taking this extra effort to make sure that our employees are comfortable. And that was, 8-9 years ago. And that's just one of the catalysts. It's gone so much further than comfortable seating in the office now. So I think it's kind of cool, a really neat place to go. I think leaders are having to step up quite a bit and actually be leaders, not this, abacus pushing numbers from one side to the next kind of leaders. So I'm super excited about it. It had to be a change for myself, right? Because it's different than what I was taught.
Yeah.
I grew up, and you probably grew up in the, the 80s as well. We had a scarcity mindset of, oh my gosh, I'm grateful to even have a job, right? Because unemployment was high at the time and there was no gig economy, right?
Yeah.
So, but today, there's no scarcity for work, right? If you want jobs, you can get one today without a problem.
Or make one up, seems like.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about the future for this.
I think just in the way that when a market contracts, it creates an opportunity for the survivors, right? If you can survive the contraction, then when it expands, then you're in a position to dominate. It's kind of that same way as you mentioned with leaders and managers. If they can learn to adapt and lead in this market, those are the people that are going to thrive. They're going to have an edge up on the market as leaders and managers. People are going to want to work for them, and that's really going to matter.
Absolutely. And we're in the Great Resignation right now, if you want to call it that. This is October. This episode's going out in October 22. Gary Vee talks about the great never even applied situation that we're going to be going into, I think, right?
Right.
It's huge. What do you tell a kid that's getting out of high school today on what kind of path he should be taking if he thinks he might have some entrepreneurial spirit? Does he go to college or does he just get started today?
I don't think entrepreneurs are well served in the university system, the education system, period. What the education system teaches is that there are a lot of rules and we're best served by fitting in and following the rules. Entrepreneurs don't do that, right? They find, every rule that we create, like if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, how many things got better because some entrepreneur said, well, that's not broken, but I think we can do this better. That is the entrepreneurial spirit. And there's nothing that a university system out there is going to teach you that's actually going to accelerate that. They're not, even an MBA. Well, I can go learn about business. Like, really? Like that's theory, and some of it's real and some of it's not, right? But when you get out there and get your hands dirty, you're going to figure that out really well. And now there's a lot of cool programs that are focused on kind of boot camp type things for entrepreneurs, right? Or the accelerators, incubators of the world, where you're sitting with people shoulder to shoulder. We're not talking about it. We're doing it as we're learning. We've got people that have been there and done that before that have doing it. So I would say go find a mentor and there's no better way than learn than by doing. Doesn't mean you have to fail by learning all the lessons the hard way, because there are a lot of people out there willing to help you and figure it out. But, it's stupid how much you can learn just from YouTube. And if you know the right people to pay attention to and can, weed out all the hype, the noise, and all the people trying to sell you their $89 course. There's a lot of really smart people that are giving their wisdom away. Yeah.
Well, and I would recommend buy some of those. Take the money you would have spent on college, get a coach, get a mentor, buy some of those courses, get some ideas, and just start doing stuff, right? You can start You can have an LLC with some product, website, everything up to date for under $1,000.
Absolutely.
Right. And have everything ready to go with LegalZoom. You've got even some legal advice, right? Somebody you can hit up kind of on the fly and get some basic legal advice, not huge, but
well, you can get set up and protected. And there's definitely, it's the barrier to entry to being an entrepreneur has never been lower, and it's only going to keep getting lower and lower and lower. And that's part of why this gig economy is blown up. If we talked about those three types of businesses, and the gig economy is, put that on there too. I'm just going to have a business that pays for my
solopreneur, right? Or
solopreneur.
I think they're calling those solopreneurs are micro companies now.
Micro company. Okay.
Micro company, right? One or two people would be a micro company. And a lot of times that's a husband and wife team, right?
So
and that
cool.
could be, they own a couple cars and they're Uber driving and lifting, right? They're managing their own company. They're 1099 and that's their business.
Ken, I just last week was with a guy who has, as CEO, taken 2 companies public and started several other very, very successful companies. And I said, well, what are you doing now? The dude's in his 70s. What are you doing now? I drive Lyft and I love it. And his wife does too. So that's crazy. I want to go back. Yeah. This is interesting. I'm going to geek out on a point for us.
Okay. Yeah.
Milton Friedman in the 70s created our economic model that most of us still use today. But the premise of the model was in an environment when access to human resources were very high and abundant, access to natural resources very high and abundant, and access to capital was almost non-existent. We're still using that today, and all 3 of those variables are complete opposite, where human resources are super scarce, natural resources are super scarce, and our access to capital is abundant, right? So that's going to create a shift that we're going to have to get used to. I don't even know what it looks like, but we're going to have to adapt to this new model for all of our economics.
Right. I'm kind of fearful. I'm super optimistic for the future, but I'm a little bummed about this bump that we're going to have to go through to get there. Right.
Yeah.
So everything has to be, the low level jobs are going to be automated. There's not going to be any of those jobs left. Right. So if you really listen to Elon Musk for a long time, he's going to start talking about, people are just going to have better, more enjoyable things to do with their life, which is, lay in fields and think is what I think he's talking about. Right. Because the jobs aren't going to be needed, right? They're going to be robots. I don't think we're 5 years away before we don't even talk to a person or see a person at a local pizza joint or restaurant, right?
Yeah.
We order on our phone and it's a giant robot that makes our meal and spits it on the other side. So I think all those jobs are gone. Not all the truck driver jobs are gone, but a lot of them are. Once we're there, I think it's going to be great, but getting there is going to be a lot of hurdles, and not everybody's going to love those hurdles, right? So I don't know what to do about that. But how much opportunity is there in this transition of the world that we're currently, I think we're in the infancy stage of that.
Well, here's what I think. We'll go back to something we were talking about just before. What's not going to go away and what can't get automated by machines is good leaders and good managers that can lead not only on the system side of what needs done in the process of how to do it, but the soul side of the dignity, the humanity, the individuality of the person doing the work. And so if we were going to, if somebody is fearful of that, put your energy into how do I do a good job showing up as a leader worth following and being able to communicate, deal with conflict, problem solve. Those are all things that are very, very difficult for a machine to take over.
Absolutely. And I think in that leadership is storytelling and be able to nurture those stories and really bring them through or assimilate certain new experiences with past experiences to make people comfortable with the changes that they're going to be going through. Right. I'm super excited about the future of technology and where we're headed. I just hope we get there fast enough that we don't leave too many people on the sidelines during this process. But all right. So now you've got system and soul, company, structure. I don't want to undermine it. Is that basically business coaching or?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are business coaches. We work exclusively with the senior leadership teams. So it's not one-on-one. It is within the context of, remember, we're trying to move from a founder-led organization to a senior leadership team organization. So there might be some backdoor conversations that we need to have with that founder, but usually that's more like therapy, getting them okay with this transition and the trust that has to happen, the empowerment, who are the right people to actually bring into that conversation. But then we want to work with the senior leadership team and help them understand what this looks like, put in the frameworks in place, and grow them into that team that can then empower that whole organization, which frees up, one of that counseling that has to happen with the founder is they have a moment of like, am I not important anymore? And the reality is they're even more important, because in order for the organization to get to that next level, they've got to be freed up to go see what that is, to understand it, whether it's in the marketplace with customers, in their own brains, to get that space. So it's kind of like, hey, we're going to create a senior leadership team. They're going to run this company like it is, and not just status quo, like, 10, 20, 30% growth. But I need you to go out and you to be on the next thing. Where's the next area of growth, the next industry, the next channel, the next niche, the next big idea, the next big customer partnership. And that's usually what got that person fired up to start a business in the first place. And
right.
So we want to take that circle, that lifespan circle, back to the beginning, free them up to be that visionary entrepreneur leader that they can be. But they're not disappearing. Like, they still need to champion the culture of that place and set the tone for what that looks like. They typically are still the person that are bringing that charismatic energy into the organization. And that looks very, very different for different people. So the danger is to put a stereotype on this and think all leaders need to be like, who's the Virgin guy? His name's escaping me right now.
Oh, yeah. Branson?
Branson. Yeah. Like, everybody, like, man, that dude's charismatic. We got, that's not what everybody looks like. Actually, if you look at the big companies that are out there, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, both the guys at Google, Mark Zuckerberg, they're all actually introverts, but they don't lack charisma. And so we've got to disconnect that. And what we're trying to do is empower that founder entrepreneur to actually realize the vision that they had back in the first place. And we want them to be able to run a business and not the business run them.
Right. And earlier you said ego, but I've started a few businesses in my life, not all of them successful, most of them not successful, or, for whatever, different levels of success across the board. Right.
Yeah. And same here for sure.
There's a level of I go into my boxing school or my data center, and I'm like with somebody new, and they'll ask me a question. I'm like, oh no, I drilled all the holes in these floors to put these racks in, right? 20 something years ago, I was on my hands and knees doing that, and the escape from that to leading, right? Because there was nobody to lead. You were just there by yourself, or maybe a handful of guys with drills in a room, and getting it started. And you have a pride in the work that you've done.
Yes. It's tangible.
Based on the ideas that you had, and now you're just the idea guy. So I think that's part of that disconnect of, and maybe it's more on men than it is women, of this, no, I've got to get in there and get my hands dirty and kind of thing.
When you're working as a leader, you actually can show what you did, but the time span on that is a lot longer. It's a lot slower, because it usually has to do with the raising up of other humans, right? And that's not something I can go lock the door, turn on my trance music, and bang out pulling an all-nighter, right? It's a slow process. But as I look back on my career, like, somebody asked me this the other day, what are you most proud of? And 3 individuals came to mind that started basically entry level and are now running organizations. Some for me, some outside of my organizations. But I'm like, that's the most impact that I've had. Forget any of the other stuff. And So for a leader to go from, here I did 10 TPS reports tonight to, man, I elevated somebody into a job. They didn't even know they were capable of doing it, and they're crushing it. That's really cool.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and this is, I have this problem personally, and I've seen recently some videos of other leaders kind of where I would think is prying a little too far in the personal life of their employees about their own fitness, about their own habits and things that they do outside of the workplace. Like I saw a video where it was Gary Vee, the kid hit a vape. He's like, you're going to have to quit that, right? Is that the job of a leader in business today, is championing for the health and wellness of your employees as well?
Man, that is a tricky question. So if you ask me,
I think there's some lines there, right?
So I have two thoughts on this. One, if you ask me, is championing the health and wellness of our employees the job of the leader? 100% yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes, and yes. That's what it actually looks like to be a leader. Now, I think, Gary Vee's got a personality, right? So what you just said, that's totally Gary Vee's personality. He can get away with it, and it's probably great. I would say that you have to earn the right as a leader to go, Ken, I notice you're vaping, but you also really care about your family, your performance here, to know what you care about, to know why that is not going to help you reach your goals. I don't need you to quit vaping for me. I don't care. Right. But I do care about you. And so you have to build the relationship to earn the trust, to get the permission. Ken, can I give you some feedback that's not based on your work? And if they say no, leave it alone. They're not ready. So that's how I would approach that. I think that it's not a black and white, but absolutely. I can tell you,
it happened to me the other way around. I was a smoker. I've got every bad habit on the planet at some time in my life, right? And I had one of my, at the time, leaders come to me and said, "Hey, I'll give you $1,000 if you can quit smoking." And I got so offended. I'm like, "You really think $1,000 is going to make me quit smoking tomorrow? Like that? I'm not that money motivated to do that." But I remember being really offended at the comment, the way it was brought to me.
Yeah.
And then I see other people, and I've gone to some of my staff where they're like, "Hey, I want a promotion." And I'm like, well, to get this promotion, you're going to need to be more physically fit because it's more physically demanding on you, emotionally and physically. So I think at those catalyst moments, it's absolutely okay to talk about, but just in the normal realm of things, I love how you put it. Ask them, is it okay that we talk about something that's not work related?
Yeah. Well, even in your example, you connected what they want, a promotion, right? With this feedback, right? So you connected their habit, how it's actually hurting their ability to get what they want most. And that's the only way I think that we really, really change. Like I had tried to lose flab for a while and whatever. And then I booked a couples trip, and one of the guys on the trip I'm highly competitive with. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to look better than him on the trip. I changed everything about my diet, my exercise, everything. I was so motivated because there was something I wanted more than, not working out, and something I wanted more than that bag of chips. And so anytime we can connect somebody's job or somebody's habits to what they want most, we're creating an immense amount of energy.
I was on a coaching call last week with one of my coaches, and I've been in sales and marketing almost my whole life. And he said something that resonated with me that you just said. And it's escaped me for several years. He said, "Ken, people don't buy what they need. They buy what they want," right? Stop trying to sell them the stuff that they need. And it was a pretty big moment for me. And I changed some of our language and started getting better skills almost instantly by just changing the language from this is what you need and then framing it about what people want. So you're right. That want in the human nature is just so powerful, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to get what they need regardless, right? That's a given. You're going to get what you need to survive. You're going to work for what you want.
Yep.
Awesome.
Willing to sacrifice.
Benj, if somebody wanted to work with you and your team, how would they get in contact with you?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, Benj Miller ATL on LinkedIn. My website, benjmiller.com. And I'll make one plug. I have a daily email, which sounds crazy because it's daily, but it'll take you less than 5 seconds to read because it's so short. But the idea is that there's 261 things bouncing around the brain of every founder, entrepreneur, leader, of things that we're supposed to think about, things we're supposed to do, follow up on, mental models to process our world and our business. And so I just put them there's 261 working days in a business year. So one a day. I calendared them for you. So I'll hit you in your inbox with one thing every day. And that's at the261.com.
The261.com. We'll throw the link at the bottom. Absolutely. I think that's a great little, so those are just daily tips to help us stay fresh and focused.
That's it. 100%.
I love it. That's a huge value to anybody out there, that not only just business owners, but managers, or anybody who's about getting to that role. Anybody
who's leading anything can get value from that.
Right. I know we've talked about this a couple of times before, but where is the company in their existence that is the best fit for you? Or what kind of company is the best fit for your team to work with? If you were to paint the ideal, obviously you work with a lot of different kinds of companies, but that ideal client. Yeah.
They've probably figured out their product market fit. They're out of the innovation phase of their organization. And now they're looking, they want to grow, but what they actually need is control over their business before they do, or they've hit this hockey stick moment. They're actually growing like mad, but they're growing past their capacity to manage the business. Either one of those are great moments for our coaches to come in and create a ton of value.
Wonderful. I love it. So if you're in those positions, you're running a company, you're going from 10 to 25 or 25 to 75 employees, you've just broken that $2 million mark and you're trying to get to 10, whatever that is. Benj Miller, hit him up. He'll help you. He'll help your team out. Thank you so much,
man.
Benj. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken. Fun to hang out.
Have a great day. Yes. Thanks for watching today's episode of Clicks and Bricks. Get to work.